I think I shared with you that for 32 years, I was searching for why is there so much pain? Why is there so much trauma in the African American community? And there is. And I knew that there had to be a reason that we weren't aware of. And if we could identify that reason, that root cause, if you will, it may make all the difference in these symptoms that we call the problems, that we see the manifestations of, that we're unable to successfully address. And, after searching for something for 32 years, you'd like to say you figured it out, right? And the truth of the matter is, I didn't figure it out. I received it. And it was received in the form of a short story. I kind of knew the short story was supposed to be written. Somebody's having a near-death experience, and they're met with a series of ancestors back to pre-colonial Africa, and they speak in sequence to life in their time period. And I thought that was corny, I figured, or we've been told or whatever. I didn't realize that they could speak them for themselves more powerfully than any of us could speak for them. But I certainly didn't realize that was just the first part of the story. And when I read that story, it just kind of flowed. It was auto writing, if you will. Actually, not even by me, by my daughter, who I asked to tackle it because I got tired of knowing I was supposed to do it and not. I said, oh my gosh, I now know that I know what it is. And I want to share it with you in the form of a video. I don't want to call it a movie, but there is a visual that goes with it. As each person is speaking, the camera slowly pans the face of them as expressed through an oil painting that we commissioned a few years ago. And each character is true to their description in the story, except Raha, who's kind of a central character. And she's described in the story, at one point anyway, as an old woman with a wrinkled face. And I just fell in love with this picture of the sister from the 40s. Just beautiful, natural sculpted hair, but more just emanating an energy that's just so loving and so healing that, you're Raha. So, if you will, get comfortable. Center yourself. I would encourage you to close your eyes and do that now. People experience listen to the ancestors in different ways. Some people keep their eyes closed all the way through it. I don't necessarily recommend that. Some people keep their eyes open the entire time. I don't necessarily recommend that. Some people move in and out, particularly as characters change. They relate to who's speaking. And I just encourage you to understand that this is an opportunity to channel your ancestors. And I mean that, I think, literally. So I just ask you to stay in the present and be open to their message. They have a message that they want to share. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with what they want to share with you. Okay? Okay, so when you hear it start, the first words are, I was falling, falling, falling. You can then relate to it any way you choose. Okay?
I was falling, 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 falling. Suddenly, I was falling into a bright light, a white light, a light brighter than any I had ever seen before. As I fell toward the light, my panic subsided. I was aware that I was going to die, but the fear was gone. As I fell into the light, I felt nothing but an overwhelming sense of peace, unconditional love, and pure joy. I kept falling into the light. This time I accepted my fate, looking forward to what or who I would find within the light. Suddenly, I stopped falling. I slowly opened my eyes and looked around. I saw a host of faces I did not quite recognize, but they were smiling at me and seemed to encourage me to come forward. I noticed that some of the people looked like me. Finally, a man stepped forward. He was dressed regally in clothes of gold and purple. He held his head high. When he spoke, his voice was so deep it resonated in my chest. He stepped forward, opened his arms, and said,
"We have been waiting for you."
I wondered how he could have been waiting for me, but I said not a word. His gentle nature and calm demeanor assured me that he meant me no harm. He gestured for me to move towards him, and as I did, all the others formed a circle around us. He then faced me and said,
"There are things you simply must understand. My name is Kojo. I am the prince of a people who lived in West Africa. We were a proud people, a strong people, a farming people. Our community was renowned throughout the entire region for the craftsmanship of our artisans. We were doctors, mathematicians, scientists, astrologers, and midwives. We were an ingenious people who worked hard, studied hard, and made a good life for ourselves and for our children. All our ancestors, your ancestors, were revered for their great wisdom, character, and virtue. We were a civilized people with an advanced and humane culture. Children were instructed, men and women worked hard, everyone was loved and nurtured, and we prospered together. We were great, we are great, and we must never be forgotten. There is strength in knowing from whence you've come."
He began to shake with an emotion I did not understand, and somehow I actually felt his pain when he bellowed.
"Are you ashamed of me?"
He threw out his arms, encompassing everyone in the circle. It seemed the very ground shook as he cried again.
"Are you ashamed of us?"
Suddenly, he stepped backward, and a woman approached me. She said,
My given name is Raha. It means happiness. But my massa, who loved to hurt me, called me girl. I was born in Ghana, in West Africa, to a mama and daddy who loved me very much. One day, Africans who were strangers to my village took me from my family and many others too. We fought, particularly our men, and so many died that day that the dirt ran red. They forced us to march from the north to the south and to the ocean. There they sold me to white men, who forced me into a dark, damp hole in the bottom of a castle. We were terribly mistreated. I think they wanted us to realize that resistance was futile. After several weeks, I and everyone with me was forced through a tiny door that we call the door of no return. We were brought down on a beach even as the sun was rising over the horizon. We were stripped naked, and they branded us. I will never forget the smell of human flesh, the shrieks of pain, and the cries of children. After the branding, they loaded us into massive ships. It was tight. We were pressed up against each other. I could hardly believe what was happening to me, to us. My panic was stuck in my throat. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't breathe. We did not know where we were going. We did not know why this was happening. We did not know what they meant to do with us. But we imagined the worst. Perhaps they would eat us or kill us in some other fashion when we reached our destination. The journey across the ocean was long and difficult. The ocean floor was actually riddled with the bones of our people. Do you know that the sharks even followed our boat? They knew that they would feast as people died of disease, jumped over because they lost the will to live, or were thrown overboard, murdered by the white men for daring to fight valiantly and to death against our captors. And for those of us who managed to stay in the boat, we daily watched as the strongest and bravest among us were beaten with whips and chains into submission. After many weeks of these unrelenting horrors, few of us possessed the will or the courage to continue our resistance. Instead, we concentrated on survival. Those of us who lived through the Middle Passage did so only by sheer determination and an act of the will. Upon arrival, we found that we were in a new land. One by one, we were sold to white people. Our families were separated, and we were taken to plantations. Once there, we learned the rules quickly. We were never to speak our own languages. If we did, we were beaten or worse. It was permissible for the master to rape women in the sight of their husbands and to beat children near to death in front of their mothers. We were expected, nigh forced, to work sun up to sundown, and we were given nothing for our labors except the worst of anything that was left over. We got scraps of food, scraps of cloth for clothing, scraps of lumber for building. We were always cold or hot, always sick and tired, always burdened and scared. And if we failed to please the master in any way, we were beaten, or our fingers or toes were removed. Often I thought it would be better to die than to endure another day of terror, abuse, neglect, rape, or worse. But somewhere along the line, I and many others made up our minds that we would not die. I would live. Lots of us made a covenant, signed in blood. We promised to choose life every day for the sake of our unborn seed. We remembered the motherland. The ancestors strengthened us day by day, and we knew that we could not die. We could not die. We had to live. So we did some things that we were not proud of. We began to acquiesce to our captivity. We began to beg our men and boys to be obedient, to do as they were told, so that they would not be harmed and that the community would not suffer. We began to do our best to keep peace around the plantation. We just didn't want to make white folks mad. We learned to look down, to shuffle our feet, and by extension, to survive. Now, all this was not without a price. But while we changed our behavior, we didn't change our minds and hearts. We hated the white man. My, how we hated him. And that hate ate us up every day. But we had made a covenant, and child, you exist today because of that covenant. You exist today because every morning I woke up thinking about you. I woke up believing that a day would come when you would be free. I woke up with the hope that one day all of my sacrifices in body, mind, and spirit would be worth it. I imagined that one day you would be successful and prosperous in this land. We held on during the times when Hope Unborn had died because we dreamed that one day you would know today.
Suddenly, she could say nothing else. I looked into her face and saw tears freely flowing down her cheeks. She beckoned to a man sitting in the circle. He stepped forward.
I am Fred,
He said.
I am the freeborn child of slaves. I was born after the Great War. I am a product of the Reconstruction. I grew up at a time when coloreds were proud to be free. We built schools, we built churches, we built businesses, and we built community centers. We voted en masse and elected the first colored politicians and community leaders. We were strong. We worked together. We believed in each other and in our dreams. We reveled in the joy of freedom. It was scary to some, for they had been told for so long that they were useless and couldn't care for themselves. But most of us recognized what a gift it was to be free, to be citizens in this land at last, and to be able to pursue our full potential. We lived with hope for a short time. Then the Klan arose. They began to hang us from trees, to terrorize us in our homes, to beat back the small advances we had made, to burn down our churches, to steal our dreams.
He looked hopelessly around as if remembering the hanging time, the burning time. I could almost see the cross alight on his property as he held the image in his mind's eye longer than I was comfortable. Then suddenly, he fell back and a young girl appeared.
I am Susan.
She said.
My mom and daddy moved me from Florida to New York during the Great Migration. They had heard that there was work up north for Negroes and that if we could just get north, life would be better for us all. So we packed up and we took ourselves and our hopes and dreams for a more prosperous future with us. Yeah, we were scared. We were full of sorrow as we faced an unknown future. Mostly we were sad because we were leaving the only family we knew. Grandma and Auntie and others would not come with us. But We left anyway, separating from the ones we knew and loved because we had hoped for a better life. When we got north, we couldn't find nowhere to live. The hustle and bustle and noise of the city was deafening. For the first few nights, we huddled outside, cold and alone. Each day, Daddy went to look for work. It took a few days, but he found some. He also found a friend. That friend allowed us to move in with him and his family. After all, they too were struggling to make ends meet. Mama said that's what the Great Migration was all about. Colored folks helping each other, sticking together, making dreams real. So there we were, 9 of us in total, all crowded into a 2-room flat. But it was the best any of us could do. The roaches and the rats were a constant nuisance. Somebody was always getting sick, and when folks got sick, people got scared. Disease swept through those crowded apartments, killing old folks and kids quite regular. My brother Bobby died like that. He was 3 years old. It was rough, but it was better than living down south where we had lived in constant fear and where we had been abused on a daily basis. Up north, my neighborhood was filled with colored people, and I knew little of what lay outside. Every day, my parents left for work, and every night I was grateful for their return. Some of my friends weren't so lucky. Their parents would go to work and return bloody and bruised. Or they wouldn't return from work, and that's when we knew that they had most likely been rounded up and thrown into prison on trumped-up charges. That was the worst. I would watch my friends waiting and hoping for years, until one day their daddies would return, thin and run down, from God only knows where. My mama and daddy didn't talk to us kids about all this, but sometimes I would sneak out of my bed at night and hear the grown folks talking in bitter voices about degradation and segregation. Oh, how they hated both. But they said they took it because they wanted to provide us children with a home that was a haven, a good education, and a fairly safe neighborhood. Once I heard Mama say, "We don't live always in terror anymore."
Susan covered her face with her hands and returned to the circle. Next, a proud woman stepped forward. She looked like she didn't take no mess. I was a little scared of her. She looked so fierce, so strong, so brave. She said to me,
Child, you like to walk?
I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said,
Long, long ways.
I said, "No, ma'am." And she said,
I'm going to tell you a tale about the importance of walking shoes.
she began.
My name is Bernadine. I was a nanny to a family who lived in Montgomery. When I got word in my church that Rosa had been arrested, I was hot. All of us were mad because we all knew it could have been us too tired or too determined to get up that day on the bus. Us ladies decided we would not ride the bus again until we could sit where we wanted to. We got together at the church, we made flyers, and even the men folks got on board. In fact, they like to take over, talking about they made better leaders.
She laughed.
We didn't care much, long as nobody got on the bus. Not riding the bus meant we had to walk and walk and walk to work. We got up nigh 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning walking to our destination. Sometimes kindly white folks in cars would pick us up, sometimes not. I personally never accepted a ride. The bus boycott for me was about the option to walk with dignity rather than ride in shame. I walked because I wanted people to know that I am a woman. I remember hearing that Mother Poland had said, "My feet is weary, but my soul is rested." I felt the same way. And do you know what happened? Eventually, those laws got changed. I got to ride the bus. I got to sit anywhere I wanted. What a great day. And our movement encouraged others all over the country to resist the Jim Crow segregation laws. Now you know racist white folks wasn't happy. The police hosed us colored folks with water, sicked their dolls on us, beat us with billy clubs, choked us with tear gas, but we kept marching. And we marched and marched, putting it all on the line. Finally, in 1965, we won the right to vote. The right to vote, child. We bled, we suffered, and some of us died so that one day our children would have the right to drink from any fountain, eat in any restaurant, go to the best schools, work on any job, vote in every election, and always, always become the best they could be. One of our children, a 4-year-old boy, put it like this while he was sitting in jail for the cause. I want Tatum.
She looked at me with very sad and disappointed eyes. She stared at me until I looked away, my eyes meeting a very, very, very skinny black man in jeans and a sweatshirt. His skin was tight. His eyes were hollow. He almost looked vacant. As I stared at him, he stared at me. Finally, he said,
Would you judge me?
he stepped into the circle.
My name is Jermaine. I'm an Afro-American born in 1965. I died in 1984. I was a cocaine addict. I remember the first time I snorted. I was 15 years old. My uncle introduced me to that powder, and after that, I lived for it. I stole for it. I lied for it. I suffered beatings for it. I was raped for it. And I killed for it. I was in and out of jail all the time. It seemed almost all the black males I grew up with did the same. We were gangbangers, drug runners, addicts. Now there are a few of us who got out, who survived, who made something of themselves. And secretly, I was proud of them. But for the rest of us, it was hell. I don't know how we could have sunk so low. Our families were destroyed. Marriage became almost extinct. All the values grandmama instilled in me had went by the wayside in my endless quest for more crack. It consumed me. Day and night I searched for crack, doing anything I had to do. That quick fix kept me alive, or so I thought. Even when I went to jail, it wasn't no problem. That was a status symbol. Folks looked up to me when I came home. And then I was right back at it. Until one night, I got some bad stuff. I knew it the minute I inhaled, but I just couldn't stop. Something's better than nothing, right? I woke up in the light.
Suddenly, there was a tight feeling in my chest. Oh my God! The light! The light! I'm dead, aren't I? I looked around the circle. Everyone looked at each other a little surprised that I was just remembering that I was dead. Raha came forward again. She said,
Child, you certainly are dead. But the Creator is going to send you back. We summon you here today because we love you. And we see that you are on a most dangerous and slippery slope that could lead to the destruction of the African American race as we know it. You must go back. You must tell everyone everything that you have learned here. You must carry back the message of the ancestors. You must tell our story.
Terror struck as I realized that since entering the light, I had been engulfed in love. Love I never wanted to leave. Not now, not ever. Raha backed away as Jermaine continued.
Now I see the horror of the drug trade. We viewed it as an alternate economy, a means to bring money into the house. My generation had watched as our parents made a good faith effort to work within the system. On their jobs, they were called names. They were paid poorly. They were always the last hired and the first fired. That life wasn't for me. It wasn't for no one I knew. We wanted to be able to live without shame. We wanted to be able to afford our heart's desire. And we wanted to be truly free of white folks and their ways and their economy. See, we had observed that powerful people had money, and with money you could buy things that would make you feel whole. We wanted some of that. But now I see that we just went about it all wrong. We didn't want to sacrifice anymore. We didn't want to work hard and save our little. We wanted what others had now. We thought we deserved it. Money seemed to be how value was defined, so we didn't care how it came into the house. My God. In our endless quest for more and more stuff, things just spun right out of control for most of us. Out of control meant selling drugs. Out of control meant selling our bodies. Out of control meant selling our very souls. I guess that's why we were so down on school too. It interfered with our quest for fast money and our desire for liberation from the white man. You know, I and the kids I grew up with were the ones who integrated those suburban schools. We got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, half asleep, just to catch the bus. We went to schools an hour away from home, full of white folks, adults and children, many of them hostile to our very presence there. Day in and day out, we tried to do what our parents asked of us. We tried to make those suburban schools work. But we saw how white kids were favored. We saw how they got called on for everything. We saw the hate or pity or disappointment in the eyes of our teachers. They told us we were dumb and that we needed to attend special education classes. Not so. We just got tired of playing the game. So in mass, many of us dropped out, pursued the fast life, made babies we weren't prepared to raise, and got caught up in the revolving door that led us from home to prison and back again. I really wish I knew then what I know now. Prison ain't no rite of passage. Casual sex with someone I picked up at the club did not ever provide me with the love that I was so desperately seeking.
Shoulders still drooped, he stumbled back, and I knew he was finished. Raha had let him speak, and his voice had been choked with shame and with regret. Then the voice of Raha was heard.
Child, we see you struggling. We see you frustrated, angry, hopeless. We see you eating such a poor diet. We see you beating your kids and telling your children you ain't nothing and you ain't never gonna be nothing. We see your children dropping out of or failing out of school. We see our precious babies having babies. We listen to your music and watch your dance. It pains us to see you shaking your butts, baring your bodies, taking part in promiscuous sex, all because you desperately want to feel unconditionally loved in this world, if only for one brief moment in time. That's why so many young girls is making babies before their time too. They think if they have a child, they will finally have somebody who will unconditionally love them.
Next, Fred came forward asking,
And what is going on with this bling bling culture? It's destroying us. Seems to me black men are afraid they will fail to provide for their families, so they don't make none. Instead, they calling themselves daddy to babies made for 2, 3, 4 different mamas. How can you be a daddy if you don't take responsibility for your seed? Daddy is a title that is earned. If you don't earn it, you're just somebody's father. All this is a shame, I tell you.
Next, I heard a voice that sounded familiar, yet I couldn't see from whom it came. And before I could figure it out on my own, my grandfather moved into my line of sight. He said,
How could this have happened? How have you allowed yourselves to be divided and conquered? Are you still waiting for white folks to say I'm sorry?
I ached to reach out and hold my grandfather. My heart jumped for I loved him and missed him so, but he held up both of his hands, and I understood that while he could not physically embrace me, he was certainly holding me in his heart. Granddaddy stood next to me as Raha began to speak again. She said,
My goodness, don't you know? Don't you know that these behaviors have their very roots in our time as slaves and the brutal decades that followed? I want you to know that the hearts of so many ancestors who sacrificed so much to bring you to today, and the ancestors before them, back to the dawn of time, cry out in anguish. During slavery time, the ancestors did what they had to do to survive, knowing that a day would come when their seed would be free. Remember, You come from strong stock, and the ancestors have never and will never abandon you. They have always been present, ready and willing to offer you more support than you could ever need. But hear this, that was for then, not for today. We beg you, all of us, to stop living by the survival rules we crafted during slavery and the brutal decades that followed. Understand, we beat our children so the master wouldn't. We learned to give our children shooting eyes. One look that would stop them in their tracks if they were in danger of upsetting someone who would hurt them bad. We told our kids that they would be nothing, so that they wouldn't dare to dream dreams that would get them tortured or killed. We imagined that education was for white folks only, to protect them from bitter disappointment, hurt, and rejection. We ate the feet and tail and intestines of the pig, because that's all we had. We were divided and conquered by the white man, light-skinned against dark, house workers against field, so that we would fight each other instead of our rightful enemy. We had no power over our bodies or our destinies, and that sense of hopelessness sowed in us a seed of nihilism that eventually caused us to view ourselves and everyone else with black skin as worthless. We fried our hair, hated our hips and lips and thighs, and bleached our skin, trying to mitigate the pain. We couldn't even help each other except to endure, and we couldn't lash out at white people or we all suffered. So our anger was focused on ourselves and on each other. We lashed out in a way that said African life was cheap, for we saw it being abused all the time. Living in constant terror, disappointment, shame, and forced submission made us do crazy stuff to ourselves and to each other. But somehow we held on. The ancestors made us strong enough to survive and demanded that we did so. After all, the ancestral line was at stake. We did what we felt we had to do to bring you to today. But let me ask you, child, why in God's name are you all still acting like this now? Why are you still living as if you have no hope, no dreams, and no aspirations? Why are you living like you ain't got no ancestors, no God? Remember, a covenant was made with you hundreds of years ago. Your ancestors chose life so that you might live. They chose to live slave so that you could one day be free. They endured hardship so that you could know today. Knowing, trusting, believing that if they were strong enough to endure, you would one day return dignity, nobility, and joy to our people. I know what was done to us was wrong. I know we're still suffering the consequences. I know the white man hurt us bad. I know we got some bad stuff, bad habits, hurting places in our guts, wrong thinking in our minds. But you can overcome it. You must overcome it.
Once again, grandfather spoke.
Grandbaby, please go back. Tell everybody that those self-destructive behaviors are nothing but negative mental legacies from slavery and days past. We understand that you're traumatized by our history in the United States. We understand that you have high heels to climb, but by God, you've got to make up your minds to start climbing.
As I looked over at Bernadine, she began to speak.
Now is the time to stop allowing our past to be so all-consuming and to start using your energy to build up a glorious future. Now is the time for you to empower yourselves. You got to stop being your own worst enemies. You've got to start acting like you love yourself and love your children and love your children's children yet to come. You've got to remember the covenant. Every generation lives, does the best they can, make sure that their children have more opportunity than they had, so that when opportunity comes, somebody will be ready to kick open doors previously closed to us, and every able-bodied person can rush through. Listen, love each child like they are life itself. Protect and teach and nurture them Surround them with folks who care about them. This is your heritage. You can do this for yourselves. You can do this for your children. Don't wait for white folks to apologize. It ain't coming. Reparations, of course our people deserve them, and one day they may come, but don't you count on it. Count on yourself. Count on your wisdom. Count on your creativity. Count on your strength.
As Bernadine quieted, Susan began to speak.
Know your history. Feel the power and strength and love of it. This will empower you to recognize that now you have the freedom and power to carve out the reality that you choose for yourself. Support each other's work. Invest in each other's dreams. Be your own best friends. Cooperate and make something of yourselves. Let go of the negative mental legacies of slavery. They have no value today. Let them go and you will set yourself free. Really free. The free we, your ancestors, dreamed for you.
Germaine began to speak hesitantly, yet urgently, in my direction.
Go now. Go now and tell all that you have been told. We choose you because we believe that you will faithfully deliver our message. Nowadays, I see that messages can easily be transmitted. Use your newspaper, your radio, your email, your fax, your cell phone, and your World Wide Web. Print, copy, and electronically distribute our words. Perform them in schools, churches, and community centers. Tell everyone what we have shared with you.
Grandfather looked me right in the eyes. I could tell that this final message would be the most important. He said,
Tell them this. It comes straight from our Creator, and it is the secret of life. Love begets love, and evil begets evil. And love will always overcome evil when love acts too, yet evil always acts while love often waits. Yet a life is just a moment in time without a proper name, while the only choice is to enhance or to harm. Love. Love deeply and know that love is an action word. What good does it do to love if you can't act out love selflessly nor speak it one to another? Love is the weapon and dignity is the prize. For the sake of every ancestor who ever lived and each who ever will be, create a culture of love. Your time is now. Live lives of joy and love and positive accomplishment, of high character, the highest virtue and exceptional values. It is in your genes. It is the essence of who you are. Empower yourselves with love. Create a healing community of love, and you will thrive beyond your wildest dreams.
As I nodded my head with understanding, my grandfather, who had filled my line of sight, began to disappear. Again, a white light surrounded me. To my dismay, I felt myself being gently guided back through the tunnel. I awakened to the gentle beeping of machines and of doctors and nurses standing around me. And then I heard someone say, "Doctor, we've got a heartbeat."
Thank you for continuing to keep your eyes closed. And I encourage you to just be present with the message from the ancestors. They've shared their message. For our benefit. And what I want to ask that you do now is to just let it flow. Whatever thoughts or feelings you're having, just let them flow, particularly as it relates to their specific message and the various characters. and listen to the ancestors. So not a time to reflect on loved ones who've, necessarily touched your life, be it grandparents or parents or whatever, but to respond to the story. Vicki, I'd like for you to start. You need not be in a hurry.
Trenton, Jai, Micah, Miles, Alan, Robert, Myron, Jesse, David, the names in which I spoke in the beginning are my grandsons. I will stand in the gap for my grandsons. I will love my grandsons. I will allow them to be around positive male role models. I will teach my grandsons how to speak to women, how to treat women, how to love their sisters, their mother. I will continue to encourage my brothers to be the kings that they were raised to be, and teach my young prince, to grow into the kings that they are designed to be, or destined to be. My granddaughters, most definitely. I will make sure I do my part to give them as much love and let them know that they are worthy and more than worthy to be what they want to be who they are, and to truly love themselves no matter what. No matter what. And I, for myself, I will continue to do the work in me that I need to do for myself to continue to make me great. Thank you, ancestors.
And just so you can just pick up.
I make myself, do the best I can to help keep myself going good and great. See what type of help I can help out with my kids, get them back on the right track, get my grandkids back on the right track, try and get their heads straightened out more better, so they can truly make something of themselves instead of just being out being fools and trying to hang with a crowd that one day might end up getting them tossed in the ground or whatever. Trying to do the best I can to be the king that my queen wants me to be.
I will keep my eyes closed as I say that thank you for letting me in. Thank you for being candid in my presence.
If any of you have anything additional you'd like to say right now, just let it flow.
True enlightenment. I mean, my synapses are going haywire. Meaning that they firing on every level. All of this change and all of this great change that I've been doing for myself and within these past year, I'm seeing a whole lot of things coming to fruition. I'm thankful and I'm grateful. I'm thankful and grateful that my family didn't give up on me and that I didn't give up on myself. I'm thankful and grateful that I have a better understanding of who I am so that I can be able to hopefully be able to help my grandbaby not feel as much pain as I feel or how I was feeling about my dad. I'm humble. Very humble. Don't want to be as hard as life made me be and I allowed myself to be. I want all of my femininity, all of my femininity to be on the scene and to be present every opportunity possible and subside all that male testosterone that comes to the surface. But I want to continue to grow into my feminine self. Not my tomboyish person that I grew up being. So I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like my heart has been opened up even more. I can see a bigger picture. And I can see that bigger picture with a lot of patience and a whole lot more understanding.
Jesse? Let it flow.
I say a whole lot of weight been lifted, but I'm still learning. Still trying to be a better person. Been through a lot. Overcame a whole lot of obstacles. I'm still learning. With that, I hope God keep on giving me the strength to keep on going.
And
I think the presence in my life because it's been an enormous growing experience of you, Howard Denson, and the people that I have met through you. I never got allowed to feel that there was pain in my life or discontinuity or absence of love or even things that were difficult, like a brother who died. There was always a happy spin, which I believe has helped me. My brother was always said to be our guardian angel. My brother was always said that my mother would say, well, there always will be two babies in the nursery. But I can't know the pain that either of you have so poetically expressed, which is why I thank you for letting me be in your midst. And again, I say, because I can't see you, out of humility, I sit between you with my eyes closed.
I would just like to let the ancestors know that I'm fully aware of the trust that they've placed in me. And that I will do all that I can do and all that I know to do to share their message. With my people, with African Americans, so that we might finally heal. And with everyone, so that America can finally heal from its experience with race in America. We only need to know the truth. And knowing the truth will lead us wherever we need to go to complete our healing process. But I want to jump way ahead and share something that I shared a little bit with you, Vicki. Healing don't have to be a long-term process. I know that I know that I know that it can be instantaneous. In fact, I got words for it. I call it transformational healing. You hear that, Jesse?
Yes, sir.
You just have to embrace it. You just have to want it and accept it. Because once you know, you know.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of negative drag to the things in life that we don't know that's kicking our butts. But the second we figure it out, there's freedom.
Yes.
There's freedom. There's freedom. And I got something I want to say to you, my brother. I hope you know how lucky you are. You hear me? And I mean this at the bottom of my heart. You know, you have a woman over there who wants to dump on you. And I say that in the most loving way possible. The lifetime of love that she wanted to give someone and never found anybody worthy. You know how many men would kill to have a woman that open to loving you? And And I know it's not easy for you to accept. I can see it. I mean, we've all seen it. But it's not hard to accept. It is so easy to accept. And then and I don't mean this literally, but in a way I do mean, just lay back and bask in being loved, dude. That's all any of us ever wanted, right?
Yes, sir.
Including you.
Yes.
So take it. Don't make light of it. Don't walk away when it's flowing. Open your heart and just enjoy it, man. It's what we all long for. And there's one other piece, okay? It's okay to love yourself.
Amen.
It's perfectly okay to love yourself, no matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what you've been through, no matter what you put other people through. You are a child of God, and that's enough. As a child of God, that makes you a little creator. You can wake up any morning and recreate yourself anywhere you choose. So, thank you for allowing the ancestors to channel their message through you. And I thank everybody who ever watches this for allowing the ancestor to channel their message through you. I know I've never been the same. I don't know many people who have. Thank you.